right, we ready, boys? Are we ready? Are you ready?
If you're staying over there, I'm going to upgrade my chair.
Who do you think did the breathing for Darth Vader? Anyway.
Equally, that being said, people leaving the sport is not necessarily a bad thing at times.
Yeah, Lewis.
Okay.
We should do a thing.
Yeah.
And actually, I can see you looking at the notes. I'd like you not to look at the notes if that's possible.
I would just go back to my Corvette photo.
Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Ahead of the Apex. We are sorry we've been away for a week. It has been a while. Today, I am joined by Tim and Jake. Are we going to say hi, Tim and Jake?
Hi, Tim and Jake.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, got him.
We're so back. We're so back.
It's been a while, boys. How are we?
Yeah, good.
Good. Yeah.
It feels like it's been even longer than
It's
a
been
while.
a minute, hasn't it?
Not just in here, but generally in terms of, I feel like I've not watched a race in about 6 months.
It does feel a little bit like the winter break is back, except, worse, because we've had a bit and then had like a month off. And it's still a week till Miami. Like, it's still...
I know, yeah.
And then there's another 3-week break. Have you seen the calendar? There's like nothing for 3 weeks. It's absolutely nuts. I'm not about that life. Today, we are talking a couple of things. The first one is we did have some racing in April. Thank God. We had some WEC, and it was awesome.
As always.
And it was awesome. And, how wrong were we about Toyota at the end of last year when we were like, they said the car's going to look good. And, at least it'll look good because it won't be fast. But,
Yeah.
But it turns out it was both. It was fast and it was... good. Have you seen it?
Yeah. It does look fantastic. First of all, we didn't really do a livery session in work, which maybe we ought to, but they're all a bit similar.
The Ferrari and the Aston are exactly the same. The Jota is the same. The BMWs are the same. The Alpine has got less purple on it.
Shock.
And,
Yeah.
But the Toyota has gone full red, like deep red, like Haas red. So, we also owe an apology to Haas for criticizing them.
Yeah.
It's not even Toyota colors. Well, it is now. So, oops, guess we were wrong. But like straight away. And what was interesting was they were up there with Ferrari and quali.
Yeah.
In the closest qualifying session WEC have ever had. 0.01 seconds.
Which is nuts.
Which is a nuts
I always
number.
think we forget about how long a lap is. And when you take that margin as a percentage of the lap time.
Yeah, well, I think their
it's insane.
Times were 130-ish, 120-ish.
Yeah, right.
In Hyperpole. In the race, their laps were 130. So just let me check their Hyperpole laps. They were 130.1. And we're talking about 1/100th of a second, which is faster than you can blink your eye.
Yeah.
0.01%.
Okay, show off.
The trick is you've got to set your calculator to scientific.
The trick is just use your keyboard. The on-screen keyboard sucks. I think I've learnt my lesson there. Anyway, right.
0.01%. That was the
That's
difference.
just crazy.
And this is two manufacturers, which is just insane.
I mean, that's
right?
just, in the noise. So unreal start to the season in terms of that. Again, good to see Ferrari's qualifying pace still strong.
Yeah.
But
And
again,
race
Toyota
pace.
was such a surprise in that.
And race pace, considering they have the harshest bop.
Yeah, they're bopping hard.
They are bopping hard, along with Genesis. Which
They've
we'll get to in a
they've
minute.
put the elephant in the back of the car.
Yeah, naturally. Both Ferraris get a good start.
How do you put an elephant in a car? Make sure the car is a Ferrari wet car.
Ha ha ha.
You can't genuinely laugh and then follow that up with a sarcastic laugh. That's not how it works.
That is exactly how it works. I can do what I want. This is on the internet. You can do whatever you want on the internet. So, both Ferraris jumped the Toyota at the start. Let's bring it back onto track. At the first stop, the Toyotas didn't change tires.
Nice. Back on track.
Nice. Didn't change tires, so they jumped ahead of the Ferraris, and the number 7 played the same trick, which brought them into play with the Ferraris. And then Toyota deployed their Kamui Kobayashi tactic, which was just sit in front of Giovinazzi and make sure he can't get past you. And meanwhile, Hartley's car is pulling away, building a gap, ready to pit for tires. Ferrari tried to play the same strat, did jump Kobayashi in the end, but the number 50 car received a drive-through for, does it say? No. Just had to serve a drive-through is what I got. Hartley said, the big crucial thing happened yesterday with Rio putting out the front row in qualifying, which came out of nowhere. We weren't expecting that, and it gave us a tailwind going into the race. I lost a place in turn 1, but we kept our heads down, managed the tyres well, and the team played strategy to perfection.
Which is awesome.
Awesome. So hit the ground running.
Again, going to be a great year.
I think so.
As WEC always is. I think it's still and remains very underappreciated and underviewed.
92,000 people in Imola.
Yeah, it has a fantastic attendance. I just feel like it doesn't really...
So when I
I
watched,
feel like all 92,000 people go to every single race.
when I watched,
there's
quali,
92,000 fans.
the grandstands were empty literally empty during quali. Which, okay, I kind of get because they've changed it so the LMGT3 now do 15-minute hyperpole as well as the hypercars, so there's less on. And it's expensive. Let's not forget, travel is expensive at the moment,
And especially when you're going to Imola, which is in the middle of nowhere.
But yeah, 92,000. I mean, I think an F1 race there gets 200,
Yeah.
but that's not bad. That's
That isn't bad.
that's about half capacity, right? And obviously you've got the houses around which will just have opened their doors and windows. Just watched.
Yeah.
Imagine owning a house at Imola. Awesome.
I have 6.
Do you?
Yeah.
Why are we not doing this podcast from there then?
Because they don't know that I own them.
Nice. Quickly onto Genesis. So I think it's important to emphasize that we'll have more of a Imola Belgium discussion once we've had.
Yeah.
Belgium,
We'll do it
right?
in a batch.
There's a lot to digest in 6 hours, so this is just like surface level of the big stories, and then we'll obviously delve into it a bit more, and we'll have more of a trend. Genesis, their first outing, with obviously Ferrari's BOP restrictions.
Yeah, and we spoke about this a lot last year. I don't get why they do it. Just give the new guys a good run in, and then put the elephants in.
I guess every rule exists for a reason, right? So what if somebody at some point in history has come along, been slow in the practice sessions before the season starts? They've been like, oh, don't worry about BOP. We'll give you a light BOP regulation. And then
they
absolutely destroy the rest of the teams. Yeah, I don't know. They're basically, as we said in the preview, that they're basically just here to compete and not, get the laps in. Same as Cadillac F1. But they had 0 reliability issues in practice. They were 2.5 seconds off the pace, which is not bad. Less than that in quali. 1 electrical issue for car 19 in the race, which meant they ended up finishing 24 laps down, but did finish.
Still finished.
Took them 30 minutes to fix that, so that's not bad. The number 17 car gambled on rain, which was interesting. Them all stood outside in the pit lane like this with their hands out. Just the entire Ferrari team like this going,
Please?
Is it gonna rain?
Pretty please.
Rain? The rain never came, so they did this Toyota pit stop trick where they didn't change the tires, but they did it at the second stop thinking they'd be in soon for wets and therefore they'd be able to save a bit of time. Never happened, just couldn't keep the pace. I thought that the driver's comments would be interesting to you, Tim. Delaney's comments, because I know that he mentions your favorite person.
Well, look, Cyril's 5-year plan, of course, ended in him leading Genesis in WEC. That was the natural final point
progression for
of
Cyril.
Cyril's 5-year plan. So it's great to see him finally reach the end of the 5-year plan.
Well, this
Only
is the
about
start
10
of his
years
new
afterwards.
5-year plan, presumably to get Genesis to the top.
Oh, man. Cyril's second 5-year plan is going to start trending on Twitter.
So Delaney said, I want to say a big thank you to the whole team, particularly to Cyril, for putting so much trust in me so early on, and to the Genesis group for taking the leap into the unknown. And here we are, finishing our first race with a very competitive car and great things to look forward to.
It's all. I'm always very pleased when new people come into sports. I think it did for a long time, especially in F1, feel like a very closed
Group.
competitive group.
Stagnant.
Yeah. And I think having a bit of fluidity and, equally, that being said, people leaving the sport is not necessarily a bad thing at times.
Yeah, Lewis.
Okay. Tell us how you really feel. But it's nice. And I think it's always good to see. And I think especially nowadays, everyone's becoming a bit more risk averse and, less likely to dive into things and just sort of say, look, let's just have a go. It's good to see. And again, it paid off for them, which is really exciting. And hopefully that acts as a bit of a catalyst to other people trying to do the same.
Yeah, well, it came at the detriment of Porsche, right, who left.
Yeah, well,
Who left Hypercar. They're still competing in LMGT3, but they're not interested in Hypercar at the moment.
No, I think they got a bit bruised.
Finally to LMGT3, and I'm so glad that Jake's here because I've titled this bit McLaren Downfall. BMW to the front. So McLaren are running Garage 59 this year, which I think means they're allowed to do more prototypey bits from memory, from our running of the Le Mans podcast episodes last year. Still a bit unfamiliar. They were leading the way with car number 10. And then the BMW number 69, was...
You child.
Yeah. Was chasing him down, helped, of course, by the double retirement of Lexus, who is suspected forgot to put fuel in one of the cars.
How'd you forget?
I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know, man.
Oh, that is funny.
I have no idea.
Which is a shame because they did so well last year.
Lexus crushed it last year.
Phenomenal. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, hang on.
hang on,
we
fuel.
forgot the go juice.
This is how we're supposed to race. Within the last hour, it was actually, and I checked this, at 34 minutes to go.
That's tough.
The McLaren suffers a sudden loss of power, does a Control-Alt-Delete, restart, lights come back on, makes it another 200 yards, same happens again. Eventually makes it back to the pits. The BMW literally just breezed past. And then it was basically the number 33 Corvette chasing down the BMW for the win, and it was hecka close at the end, 0.265 seconds.
Which again, right, going back to our percentages game,
6
hours to finish 0.2 seconds.
All right, I'll do the numbers.
I'm not going to bother trying. I've retired from...
Jeez, that's a small number. 0.001%.
Unreal.
Across
and the Corvette
across continents,
fantastic.
Across continents as well, because that's Corvette in the States making a car.
Yeah, and it looks fantastic.
It looks phenomenal. It's so cool. It looks like a Transformer.
I was literally going to say, my God, are we watching?
Have you seen this, Jake?
Robots in Disguise.
Quick shout out to Logan Sargent, who made
Goat.
his WEC debut.
We are so back, baby.
Goat.
We are so
Who
back.
made his WEC debut for Ford, and then Anthony Davidson casually just dropping in that he's going to be Ford's hypercar driver in 27, 28. They're just
Good
trying
for
it out.
him.
And we also suspect Max will be a Ford hypercar driver in 28. So teammates.
Yeah,
Max
yeah,
Logan
yeah. You
teammates, yeah.
invest in work stock now.
Yeah, because
Drama.
didn't really do anything major except for a moment coming out of the hairpin before you go up the hill down into the, where it drops down and there's the double right hand.
Yeah, yeah.
That, coming out of that hairpin, where he made it 4 wide on the grid because he was blocking the hypercars.
Hell yeah.
So quick shout out to Logan Sargent. And with that, on
Work.
to something else. All right, Tim. Do you remember
The 21st night.
of September? Do you remember a couple of weeks ago, many weeks ago now, actually, we were having a rant. I mean, we have a rant a lot, so that doesn't narrow it down. But we were having a rant with Katie
Please be more specific.
Which round and what day?
about how homogenized Formula One has become and how
I do. I thought this was a very good discussion, actually.
Yeah, and how easy is maybe the wrong term, but relatively easy it has become for teams to make decisions.
Yeah, I think it was more the teams have. It's easier because there are fewer decisions to make.
Yeah,
So there's less chance of messing up one of them.
yeah. So you said to me, we should do a thing.
Yeah.
And actually, I can see you looking at the notes. I'd like you not to look at the notes if that's possible.
I would just go back to my Corvette photo.
Yeah. You asked me, well, you said, we should do, pick a few decades and pick a race and see how many decisions the teams have to make.
Yeah, on average over the weekend, yeah.
And then towards the end of that podcast, you were like, yeah, Josh will just do it. Well, Josh has just done
Hell yeah.
it. So
That's my co-host.
just to lay out the ground rules for how I got this information, because if any of it is wrong, it's because it was difficult to find.
Yeah.
So I started by looking at the regulation changes going into the 90s, the noughties, the 10s, and 20s. I picked a year at which there was a major regulation change during those decades. I then picked the Japanese Grand Prix because it's been consistently on the calendar
Yeah,
for
good.
that entire time. I also looked at tire manufacturers, refueling regulations, whatever else. I fed all of that into Gemini and said, have I missed anything? Can you go and do a massive search and
Do a
find bits
deep
that I've
sweep.
missed? I'd missed a couple of bits. I then verified that again by searching for those facts myself. So touch wood.
That is called positive use of AI, everybody.
So touch wood. This is all accurate. I then went in and found what the practice sessions were like, qualifying sessions, race sessions. I looked at the races themselves to see if they were weather affected, safety car affected, virtual safety car affected, red flagged, whatever could have gone wrong in the race I looked at. So here we go. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
So the year is 1998. Okay, so the year is 1998. What's special about 1998 is that it was the year that they shrank the cars down from 2 meters to 1.8 meters. It's also the year that they introduced mandatory grooves on the tires.
Okay.
So 3 in the front, 4 in the back. It's the year when McLaren went all silvery and west and they had the very narrow cars. Also, Adrian Newey joined McLaren.
So there's no error was the big deal with them.
Yes. So it's an aero. It's an aero year,
Aero
right?
change.
It's an aero year. They're still running the big V12s or whatever they were, V10s, I think. But it's an aero year. Japan was the final round of the championship that year. And shock, Hakkinen won. Irvine in second for Ferrari and Coulthard for McLaren in third. That's not important. That's not important. They're just facts. Okay.
Yep.
Practice was a 2 practice session on Friday and Saturday. So 3 hours on Friday, 2 hours on Saturday.
Okay.
Qualifying was a 1 hour session on Saturday afternoon. Drivers were permitted to do a maximum of 12 laps during that hour.
Wow. Okay.
And this was 2 years after the introduction of the 107% rule.
Okay.
So that's in play.
And is quali still Q1, Q2, Q3?
No, just 1 hour.
So you just have an hour and it's just
1 hour.
shoot it out.
You may do 12 laps within that 1 hour. There's no restrictions on the number of tires
Okay.
that you're allowed to use. They were only allowed to run a single fuel bladder that year. That was a change. And the other change they made was the pit lane had to have 100 meters before the first garage
Okay.
for safety reasons. Tires that year, I hear you thinking. Goodyear and Bridgestone. McLaren and Ferrari had Bridgestone and Goodyear. So Ferrari on Goodyear, McLaren on Bridgestone. And the main difference was the Bridgestone was a softer compound. So it was faster in qualifying.
Yeah.
Whereas the Goodyear, they had a more aggressive development throughout the year, but it became more of a durable race tire.
Okay.
There was a reason Ferrari switched. So, what decisions? Let's talk about, so practice basically no decisions.
And hang on, are we going to talk about are we going to compare all of these two now through this discussion?
The last one I picked was this year's Japanese Grand Prix.
Fine.
Sorry, the race start was aborted. Trulli stalled in 14th place in his Prost. Schumacher on pole at the restart, he also stalled.
Wow.
And the regulation then was that the drivers had to do another formation lap while the stalled driver was moved to the back of the grid. So Schumacher started in last. Hakkinen promoted to pole, hence winning the race. No weather disruptions, no safety cars, no nothing. So decisions. Practice basically none, right?
Yeah. It's what do we want to focus on? But
Sure.
That's
Quali decisions. What do we think? I know you can sort of see my thing, but if you try and be honest about it this time instead of last time when you just went, oh, the Dutch and Belgian Grand Prix. And try and be honest about it this time.
Yeah. Obviously, there's 12 laps, so I'm guessing they would want to maybe try a harder tire to a degree.
So
or at least
this is the only year I couldn't find that information about. So I believe there was one compound.
one.
okay.
For dry, one for wet, basically.
I think the obvious one is you've got to be a lot more strategic about when you go out.
Okay, yeah, I've got that.
Because first of all, traffic will be a much bigger factor.
Yeah. How many cars were on the grid that year?
22, I think.
Gosh. Okay. So first of all, traffic is a problem. Secondly, you're going to get a pretty big ramp up from the start of the hour to the end. Actually, more than we see now, because you're going to have more cars running for longer. So
22.
are you going to stick 8 of your 12 laps in the last 15 minutes? Or are you going to sort of span them out individually?
Yeah. Get a few bankers in.
Yeah. So I think that becomes quite an interesting thought. And I'm sure that varies, or that would have varied track to track, that you'd sort of say, okay, there's more straights. So we don't, that development or the track development will be slightly less because
there's less people laying rubber down in
Yeah.
the corners. So there's less benefit to that, right?
Yeah. So that's interesting.
Would also depend
any other
on
quali decisions you want to make?
I think it would depend on whether that's 12 laps in total, so warm-ups and cool-downs, or whether that is 12 actual race, like qualifying pace laps.
That's 12 laps in total. So
Yes.
Wow.
It's 4 goes.
That's four goes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
So that's way fewer than we used to.
Well, actually, it's not necessarily 4 goes, is it? Because you could go out, do 6 fastest laps, and that's 8.
yeah, you'd have to time it perfectly to get as many fast laps in as possible.
We're only going, oh, that's 4 goes.
because
it's
nowadays
lap
they go
in.
out in.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So in that case, you've got to think about fuel, right? Are you gonna fuel up to do 2 fast laps, or 6 or whatever?
Yep.
And then slowly build through those timings, or are you gonna just do minimum fuel, highest weight saving?
Yep. So there was a minimum weight of 600 kilos.
Okay, fine. So are you going to run it at 600 kilos or are you going to run it at 620?
Right. Are you going to
and
go
get
out?
two laps?
Are you going to go out and do four fastest, like, fumes laps?
Yeah.
Or are you going to go out and do 6 and then do 4
Yeah.
or whatever? Yeah.
Okay.
6 and 3, whatever it is.
It's still the same track we used today.
Give or take, yeah.
There's quite a lot of blind corners, so you kind of have to take
It's Suzuka.
to a degree.
Maybe for you. I mean, sector 1 is all open. You can see all the way up the hill.
No, I kind of know. I mean,
the two Degners, I guess, are kind of blind, and the headend's blind.
There's those ones that are blind aren't particularly slow, so you do have to worry about traffic a little bit more and tyre conditioning on off laps and.
Yep. So I have no more decisions about quali.
yeah, I think that would cover it.
The one that I think you'll miss because I didn't give you enough info, so this is on me, is that you had to choose your tyre compound after Friday practice.
As in between the two? Or?
No, so I couldn't find whether it was like soft or medium or soft or hard or whatever, but there was clearly you could choose a spec.
And that was for the
if you were
rest of the time?
Ferrari and you were battling McLaren in the championship, you could go to Goodyear and say, can you just make it look like this, but don't tell anybody else? And Goodyear would be like, yeah.
Yeah, and Ferrari have a history of doing that with the Bridgestone.
No problem. So yes, they had to choose their tyre compound after Friday practice. But then don't forget, there was a practice on Saturday too.
Okay, to then reinforce whether or not the decision was good or bad.
Correct. Not necessarily the same regulations we have now, but going into the race, you might want to do what?
Change something. Change your setup.
Yep. No strict part ferme rules.
Okay, so you could just rip things apart and then just risk, okay, maybe that was
They go bang.
worse.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're also in the era of 3-car garages. So, if Schumacher had binned his car at the start, he could have jumped back in the T car, as they called it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else different about that year to what is different now?
Well, I think there's a load of stuff about just you're going to have less tech, so you've got to maybe not assume, but you can be less confident in technical bits.
Sure.
Your car's not basically telling you everything about it.
Yeah.
So you have to be a bit
on
more
the driver,
both the driver and then the mechanics and things to say, right, hang on, does that sound right?
Yeah.
So I think they would have. I don't know if that goes down as a decision or more as just as there's a bit more sensitivity in needing to handle things. But I think it's worth considering, and that will obviously get less and less as we go through.
It will. Anything else? If you can't think of anything, I'll reveal them.
Well, fuel.
Yep. So that was decided pre-race. So you fueled up on the grid, and then you refueled throughout the race.
Yeah. So with the pits, it was okay. Do we want to do less fuel and more fuel, or?
Yep. The tires typically lasted 2 stops.
Okay.
Lasted 3. So 3 stints in a race.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 2 pit stops.
So there were 2 opportunities to fill up, but I assume that the refill was longer than the tire change.
Correct.
So you are. Yeah. It's a direct
We're
penalty.
not at like 2-second tire changes, but
even still,
we're talking sort of 5 seconds to change the tires, 6 seconds to change the tires. A decent stint's going to cost you about 10 seconds of fuel.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's a direct penalty, basically.
So you might, Schumacher at the back of the grid, you might fuel up long in the first stop so that your second stop is cheaper.
Yeah.
Because once the fuel hose is on, that time penalty of filling up longer is less.
Yeah.
Right. That was all I had. I didn't have Tim's one about sensors. That was a good one.
Thanks.
Anything else you want to add?
I'd say repairing any damage or changing any sort of bodywork.
Yeah. So more reliance on aero. So if you break a bit of front wing, you're
screwed.
You might want
and
to
also,
change that.
I'm sure these parts would not have been designed with replacing them in mind.
No.
It wouldn't be so modular
No.
as it is now. So,
But
that's
actually,
an
I
extra
think we've
risk.
gone backwards on that because all of these little barge board flaps, like particularly 21, when you saw the side of the Red Bull when Bottas hit him in Hungary, and you realized how much crap was in that space,
Yeah.
like how much aero stuff was in that space
Yeah.
that they needed ladders to climb over it, right? Like none of that is modular. None of that is designed to be replaced. And yet, you know, they talk about losing 70 points of downforce or whatever the hell that means. Like that's a huge amount of.
yeah, I always find when they change front wings, I just think that's amazing. How that can sub in so quickly.
Yeah, it's like 4 bolts.
Yeah.
This thing is held on by 4 bolts. It's just nuts. Yeah. Right. Into the 2000s. So very early 2000s was very much late 90s sort of style of car. This is where Ferrari switched to Bridgestone and start that whole run of fame. And in particular, I've chosen 2004.
I was alive.
Woo! I was 10.
Welcome to the party.
So the major regulation changes that happened in 2004. So we're building towards sort of the FIA trying things.
Yep.
So engines now required to last the whole race weekend.
So you can rebuild and or replace.
You couldn't run an engine in practice and then another one in qualifying and another one in the race.
Which is what they used to do.
Just let that sink in for a second.
Hang on. Well, so let's go back to the last one. What engine did you bloody use for each of them?
Yeah. Changes in engines across the race weekend result in a 10-place grid penalty. Minimum qualifying weight of 605 kilograms.
Yeah.
No less than 600 kilograms at any other time, including driver weight.
Okay.
Pit lane speed limit finally set to 100 kilometers an hour. Thank God.
Yeah.
Before then.
Oh, the videos are scary.
Drivers must select wet and dry weather compounds before the start of the race.
Okay.
So Bridgestone and I guess Michelin at the time bring whatever compounds they want. You go down to the Bridgestone Michelin stand and say, I'd like.
Really?
Literally.
This is amazing because I've said that they should be doing this now and actually providing some variability to say,
Pirelli bring a garage full of tires.
Yeah. And you go with your shopping basket and you say, could I have...
I mean, the shopping basket's got to be pretty chunky and take a lot
What
of
if
weight.
they had to do that before each pit stop and it was like first come, first serve? So Pirelli only have like 5 sets of super softs, mate. And then after that, you're all out of luck. You know what I mean?
I've always found that weird because we always talk about, for example, the Red Bull or the McLaren in the recent or last year were that one of their main advantages was the fact that they had big longevity in their tires.
Yeah.
So we saw that in a lot of cases, okay, they could put the medium on when other people could put the hards on.
Yeah.
Now that was why the fact is that not available more often?
Yeah.
To say, okay, actually, when people are shooting on softs, why can't they go on super soft? Why not?
I know that, but this is the argument that sparked this whole discussion.
I know,
So-
exactly. Just getting fired up again.
Various changes to aerodynamics based on advertising space. Sad.
Peak.
Launch control banned again. Groove tires increased to 4 grooves on each tire. So up from 3 on the front, basically. Japan 2004 was the penultimate round. It was the last Schumacher 1-2. So Michael from Ralph.
Yeah, not Mick.
Jake's goat JB on the podium.
Oh, baby.
Okay. Practice was 2 45-minute sessions.
So suddenly you need to be a lot more selective about what you
Need to be really
want to
efficient
run.
with the amount of time and laps you've got.
Definitely.
It gets more complicated.
Okay.
The bottom 6 teams from the previous year are allowed to run a third car with pre-named test drivers on Friday practice sessions.
Wow. So you get an additional. That's a cool rule.
So
I quite like that.
So 2004,
I mean, nowadays I don't think Haas could afford to bring another car, but
when I looked at Japan, there was only one team. I couldn't remember which team it was, but there was only one team that didn't bring. I think it was Jordan. Okay. Qualifying gets more complicated.
Also, sorry, just on that last point, that's quite interesting because there's been a lot of discussion nowadays about how there's a lot of really, really good drivers that are not getting any exposure or any other foot in at all. And that would be a really good way of actually providing a point to a test driver. I mean, when all these teams that have test drivers, and fine, they sit in a sim, but that's...
I don't see why the FIA couldn't make 6 F1 cars that were all to spec. Doesn't have to be any to match any other team, but all to A spec and run them at 10 races this year with junior drivers in.
Yeah, and it's just battle
And
around.
let's say the teams pay the FIA to run a driver, so then that pays for the cars. Right, let's say McLaren want to run their junior driver in a spec car at a practice session to get some on-track experience with 20 other F1 drivers.
Yeah.
Fine. Pay the FIA. They
That's a good idea.
They give you the car
That's
for
a
a
good
Friday
idea.
session. That's possible, right?
There's not enough sort of graduate opportunities.
No, I know.
From F2. But yeah, you're right. And like it then just ends up creating this huge bottleneck.
Oh, I mean, look at the wet grid this year.
Oh, it's full.
De Vries, Hartley, Kobayashi,
Mick.
Giovinazzi, Schumacher, the lot. They're all in there. Sargent, just mentioned.
Drogovic is in something.
They're all in there.
Yeah.
Qualifying gets more complex. 2 sessions.
Okay.
Individual single lap sessions. So one driver at a time doing one single lap. Okay.
So everyone's watching you.
The first session runs in reverse championship order.
Okay, so this is like what they have in like Big Air and stuff.
Or
One shot.
reverse order from the 2003 final race at the first race of the year.
Okay.
The second session which determines the final grid, is run in reverse order of the first session's times.
Yeah. This is exactly what they do
with
at,
race
like,
fuel.
Oh, okay. So this is like what they do at in the Olympics, for example, but they do it at X Games and everything as well. But when you do Big Air and you have like a first ranking and then the highest score from the last one is then, that's cool. I quite like that.
Cars are in Parc Fermé from the end of the first qualifying session.
Makes sense.
That's the start, basically, the start of the first session.
Yeah.
Because by the time you've reached the end, you've only done one lap and now you're in Parc Fermé. But
one lap is crazy though.
Yeah. I remember this. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Because they used to send one driver out to do a warm-up lap, and then when that driver started their flying lap, they would release the next driver because then they're not going to get in the way.
Yeah.
One was on a cool down, one was on a warm up at the same time.
Whoa.
This was like,
And
I don't know how you guys feel.
If
but
you had a weird reverse championship where like the Ferrari had not scored in the first race and neither had a Minardi, you would get this weird situation where the Ferrari would catch the Minardi on its qualifying lap.
Yeah.
Right? Because,
and then you get a toe.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like peak, for me at least. This is like peak qualifying because it's one shot, one go, that's it.
Yeah, it feels a bit more. Definitely the intensity is ramped.
Yeah.
This stayed
massively.
around until 2005.
Yeah.
They did this in 2005. 2005 Monaco qualifying is good. You should watch it. It's good. 107% rule still with us. Never forget. In the race, they're allowed to do refueling. No safety car weather interventions.
Whoa. Modern F1 could never.
Now, specifically, Japan 2004 qualifying was moved to Sunday due to a typhoon.
Naturally.
So we've got a green track, very little dry running, but that's just Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because typhoons can't exist in any other part of the world, but never mind. So, decisions, boys. What have we got?
Well, a lot of the stuff from the last one will just slide over. All the fueling stuff, all of the sensor stuff, all of the tire stuff. You have now lost the, okay, hang on, we need to think about traffic in quali.
You have now lost that.
So that's gone.
That's gone. But that's brought with it its own decision.
But that's now brought with it. Well, I mean, I think yes, you've created more variability in qualifying because it's the 1 lap format.
Yes. So you don't have to think about you have to think about your first stint race fuel in Q2.
Yes. Because that's what you're running in your final
final
shot.
lap. Yep. But there's more of a tactic to qualifying. Specifically, actually, would play into the hands of Japan 2004.
Well, I guess it's how badly do you bin your first one?
Right. Do you want to be out at the start of Q2 because it's going to rain? Or do you want to be out at the end of Q2 because it's
Wow. Yeah. Because you're not running simultaneously.
And you quite literally get to decide because Q1 times mean nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
Wow. Okay. So that's a completely different angle. But then again, everyone else is also going to be binning it because it's going to rain. So then did you ever get to a situation where people just didn't go? It was just
just Kimmy's just driving around one-handed,
like
waving to the crowd, like,
hi guys,
like a Goodwood Festival speed run. I don't know. I can't remember quite that far back, but I'd like to watch that and just see if that's true.
Oh, well, even as with now, there's going to be people that gamble on it not raining, for example. So probably not.
So before we even get to qualifying, though, the 6 bottom teams, if you were one of those, you would have to decide who was running on Friday.
Yeah,
that's a decision. Yeah. You want to maximize your practice time, but don't forget 1 engine per race weekend. Those FIA people.
Those
and
damn
hideous regulations about how I may use my
meddling
engines.
FIA. Yeah. So, how much stress do you want to put on it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, which is what we see nowadays. But I think again, the engines would have not been built to do that yet.
Right.
They would not have been developed to a point where they can.
No, I mean, this is the era when they would just go spectacularly.
It was just boom, 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 boom.
Smoke everywhere, right?
Yeah, this is when if it went bang, it went bang, and you absolutely knew it had just gone bang.
Yeah, Jake remembers the Honda of that year.
Yes.
Okay. The Japan specific one there is car
Typhoon.
setup for the race because you've had Friday practice in mixed conditions.
Yeah.
Race is supposed to be dry, but you've done no dry running.
Yeah.
And the track is completely green because it's been hit by rain and high winds. And obviously still got to pick tire compounds before the race, but it's literally like just go to Michelin and say, I want this. Or Bridgestone. And obviously at the start of the season, you would have to sign a contract with Bridgestone or Michelin. That's technically a decision.
It's a big decision to make.
It is, because again, the Bridgestone now was a better qualifying tire. And the Michelin was a better race tire. It was more durable. Hence the Alonso flick in 2005, the year later, that won him a championship. Okay. We're going to move forward 14 years because there were a lot of regulation changes in the 2010s. Yes. But the one in particular that I wanted to talk about was the introduction of the Pirelli Rainbow.
Oh, classic.
The Halo and the restriction down to 3 engines per year. FIA. And and a ban on shark fins and T-wings. They were the main aero regs in 2018. Obviously, in 2017, we had the cars go to those 2.2 meter wide monsters that we just got rid of.
Yeah.
Japan was, so on the Pirelli Tire Rainbow, so Pirelli had 7 compounds.
I missed the rainbow.
Am I right? They had super hard, medium, soft, super soft,
hyper soft,
ultra soft.
Ultra soft, hyper soft.
Yeah.
Yes. 8. 7. 7. I was right. 6, 7. Oh, we're awful human beings. But Pirelli were only bringing 3 of the 7 to each Grand Prix weekend.
Similar to what they do now-ish.
Yes. Now, the teams were allowed to choose those tires. And for Japan, given it wasn't in Europe, and Pirelli is based in Europe, they had to make that decision 14 weeks before the Japanese Grand Prix.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So Japan 2018 was race 17 of 21. It was Hambot Vert. And Pirelli brought with them the super soft, soft, and medium tires. So sort of the middle of the range, actually. Yeah. Practice is as it is now, 3 sessions of 1 hour. You are limited to the number of tires you can use in a race weekend. You are only allowed to bring 13 sets of dry tires. I think it's then 4 sets of inters and 3 sets of wets. But it wasn't rain affected, so we'll forget that for a minute. Qualifying was a knockout format that we have now, but the top 10 have to start the race on their Q2 lap tires. Fastest lap tires.
Missed that.
So that's important.
What a great rule.
Because you might go out and do a medium run and then just...
So that was the replacement of the fuel.
Yes.
The race fuel thing.
Yes.
Which was interesting because they clearly saw value in some sort of restriction.
Yeah.
By that in quali.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, let's keep that. But again, we're not refueling because it's dangerous. So let's mix that up.
Yeah. And I think that came in 2011. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. It was whenever Pirelli turned up.
12, 11, something like that.
11, 12, something like that. Yeah. The race, obviously, as Tim just said, no refueling. This was sort of the start of the steward penalties for forcing drivers off track, blah, blah, blah. There was a safety car deployed on lap 3 for Leclerc and Magnussen, and a virtual safety car for Leclerc later in the race. So, decisions, gentlemen.
Well, I think everything we've mentioned before sort of comes into play, at least, for...
Does it?
Qualifying.
Does it?
I think qualifying, you've now... The tyres thing...
So which ones do you bring?
Yeah.
Yeah. So because you have a choice over the ones that you're going to take.
Yep.
That's still the same. But you've also now lost the stress of needing to do one lap well.
Yeah.
You reintroduce the traffic situation.
Oh, yeah.
But it is minimized because of the knockout format. So when it gets really exciting in the last 10...
There's only 10.
There's only 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, look, there is such a differential between the bottom runners and those that you expect in the top 10. Especially then. That wasn't really a problem either. You could sort of get into traffic and probably be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't forget as well, you've got to pick your tires 14 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
Which is bonkers. So again, I mean, the whole sensor debate that I think was interesting, less so. So I think you will have a bit more data and historical data you can look at, which will help that decision.
Yep.
Your car's also telling you everything about it and what to do, basically. This is the sort of era of the hybrids, right? It was the holy trinity of hybrids with the LaFerrari, the Porsche, and the P1. This was the first time where cars started really driving themselves.
Yeah.
A bit.
Oh, yeah.
So you've I wouldn't go as far to call it a driver aid, but I'd definitely, from a team point of view, talk about it from a setup perspective and all of that.
So yeah, tire wise, you've got practice where you've got to decide which tires you're running and what sessions you're going to do. But that's the same every year. You don't have to worry about fuel anymore.
No.
The whole fuel thing's gone. I mean, you know how much your car chugs through fuel from practice.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's more of a case of how much fuel do you have for qualifying laps rather than
Minimal.
how much fuel.
Yeah, you just go to zero.
Yeah,
Right?
you just go to zero.
go warm up.
Yeah,
Warm up, zero, cool down.
I mean, if it's wet, maybe you do, but it wasn't. So
yeah,
you do have to think about conserving your engine. But
You do,
But
and
by
you-
this point, the engines are pretty good. Dare I say
Yes,
it?
yeah. And I also think the big one is Q2, where you're still dealing with a bit of traffic. There then becomes this big risk of, hang on, it's obviously more advantageous to start on a medium tire than a soft.
Oh, well, if I'm in a Mercedes in 2018.
was this also around the time where the top 10 had to pick a tire and 11 didn't,
Yes.
and 11 got the advantage?
11th,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
11th
yeah,
place
exactly.
with the advantage.
So-
So your fastest lap in Q2, whatever tire you set that on, that set of tires, you had to start the race on.
Yeah.
So you didn't want to do like 3 or 4 laps on a medium, hammering them,
Yeah.
because then you've got 5 or 6 laps of going
Warm
out,
mediums.
of warm mediums that
Yeah.
you have to start the race on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was better to be
And-
11th than 10th. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a big one, because I think it then entered this debate of, okay, hang on, do we want to be in Q3? Because you also save tyres by not being
Well,
in.
so you get an extra set. Pirelli
Yeah.
gave you an extra set for Q3 runners.
No, of course, but how many people use one set of tyres in Q3?
Yeah.
Yes, true.
So, yeah, fine, you're using not 2 sets, you're using one extra set. But
Well, the Mercedes at
it's
this
still a
point
penalty.
probably would have used a warm set of softs. Like,
yeah, that's
Pirelli,
true.
out of your 13 tires, Pirelli mandated 2 sets for the race.
Yeah.
So
Yes, because they introduced the whole you have to.
you have to run the mediums and the
Change-
softs.
you have
so
to
run
change the
softs and
compound.
super softs or whatever. You have to, but they were like, you have to run these 2 out of the 3 available compounds.
you
You
have
have,
to-
to run these 2.
Oh, okay. So then again,
There's
that's
at least-
one-
So Pirelli, so that's a decision you no longer have to make.
Yeah.
yeah.
there's at least 3 tires you have a choice from.
What are we paying these people for?
There's kind of a choice of 3 tires because obviously you start on a set of tires that you're forced to start with if you're in the top 10.
Yep.
yeah.
If you want to do 2 stops, you can.
So I've written 1 stop versus 2 stop
Yeah.
for
but-
that reason.
You'd still need to do at least 1 stop. So there's at least 2 tires that you'd need to have. So it comes down to the choice of, I mean, Mercedes were dominant and fast as hell. To beat them, do I take 2 stops? Do I take,
Yeah.
do I do 2 softs and a medium? Do I do a 1 softs in there's that choice of
Yep.
strategy that comes into it a bit more.
If you
Whereas-
know what the switch is going to have to be, you can then
Plan around it.
yes,
Yeah, fine.
a little bit more.
The other one,
But also, I think it's worth mentioning. This experience will be very different if you're
A slower car.
a slower car.
Yeah.
And I think generally speaking, we're talking about this from the point of view of a competitive car that's
Yes.
shooting for wins.
yes.
I mean, it's different to being like a rich energy Haas to being a Mercedes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So in Japan specifically, and just generally, you have to be aware of safety car and virtual safety car decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the safety car on lap 3 would have been enough for a soft runner to switch to maybe a medium.
And also virtual safety cars would not take, well, it would take more out than a normal safety car.
Yeah.
Or a
So the
warm medium could have switched then as well.
Yep.
Because the fact that virtuals are now involved means that I guess the effect of a safety car is less. It's less disruptive
The
to
benefit,
the normal
yeah.
race plan.
Yeah.
So I guess that becomes a bit of a thought.
The final one I have for 2018 was ERS deployment throughout the lap. So not necessarily the system we have this year, which we will discuss shortly, but how your car deploys energy generally coming out of, at what speed does it trigger a new mode, or what, that sort of thing.
Yeah, engine
And
modes were a
generally
big deal.
the driver pushing the overtake mode and
Yeah.
whatever else, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 2026. So, as we know, major regulation changes this year. Cars are shorter, lighter, active aerodynamics, 3 ERS activation modes, removal of MGUH, sustainable fuels, 18-inch slicks, narrower profiles, 3 tyre compounds per Grand Prix weekend. Mandated by Pirelli, and all you get now is a number, C1, C2, C3, so on. Japan was round 3. It was actually the last round. And Antonelli, Piastri, and Leclerc were on the podium. There was 1 safety car deployed. Practice, as we know, is 3 sessions of 1 hour. Limited weekend tire usage. Qualifying is a knockout format. And they have just, which we'll talk about next week, reduced the maximum energy recharge per lap, but it was 8 megajoules.
Yeah.
Race, no refueling. We're in an ultra complex steward penalty Formula One thing. Safety car deployed. Typically, we've seen 1-stop strategies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because there will be longevity in now things more.
Pirelli still mandate 2 tyre compounds in the race.
So it's almost you do it because you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you think our key decisions are, boys?
Well, I think the choice of what tyre just start on comes back into it
Yes, the Q2 tyre rule has gone.
because that's gone.
Yes.
You have to make a choice. Is it the day of or is it the day before? I can never remember. That you've got to make a choice.
What, for the race?
Yeah.
When you turn up to the grid,
Yeah.
you put your tyres on. As far as I'm aware, I don't think you have to declare to the FIA which tyres you're going to run.
I think,
I mean, it's the FIA. It's likely.
but I actually think I'd dispute that a little bit to say yes, you have to make that decision, but actually, you're not forced into it.
No.
And this is one of those moments where actually being forced into something made it riskier when you're in qualifying. So now everyone will basically put mediums on.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless it's wet or rainy or
Exactly,
green, right?
So actually, the decision that I would argue that's not a decision because you are going to put mediums on when you start the race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a fact I didn't know, and it'll blow your mind because I didn't know it because I don't think I've noticed the difference. But you're still restricted to 13 sets of dry tyres by Pirelli per race weekend. And you can choose, right? You can choose how many of the 3 that they're bringing you want in your 13. But instead of it being team-based now, it's driver-based.
Yeah, I think that's a good rule.
So Lando and Piastri can have different...
Yeah, so if
sets.
one person
You know,
is a bit kinder...
Right. But
Okay,
I'll tell
I
you
like
why
that.
I was surprised by it, because I haven't noticed the difference.
Does it include wet tyres as well? Or is it just...
No, so you always get 4 inters, 3 wets.
Yeah.
And the inters and the wets are the same.
Which I'm glad we
Yeah.
shipped to Saudi Arabia.
So glad. I'm so happy that
We're now sustainable.
I have to drink through a paper straw and we have to listen to 50-50 ICE battery engines, but Saudi
Shipping
Arabia.
wet tyres to a place that is basically a desert. Really smart.
But 8 sets of intermediates per team go to Saudi Arabia. And we're
And
on the way
Bahrain.
to Saudi Arabia before the Grand Prix were cancelled. So
And Bahrain.
great. No, but I mean, I genuinely haven't noticed it because most people are just like, oh, well, we'll put the medium on and then we'll put the soft on, or we'll put the medium on and then we'll put the hard on. I was like, right.
Cool. I think if you brought that down to something like 10,
Yeah.
that would be spicy.
Oh, yeah.
I think if it's...
Oh, well, would it?
You obviously also lose a tyre set per practice session.
Yeah, I think it's down to that
So it's
as
3
well.
per...
So you get 13 sets.
So that's 3 plus...
Ideally, you use 6 sets during practice.
Yeah, and then you've got
You give 3 back.
3 sets through quali?
Possibly 6.
You might have 6.
It's between 3 and 6.
Yeah, if you need to put extra.
If you need to run a warm tyre in.
But you might be
The
using
race.
the ones in practice in
But
qualifying.
you also get an
Yeah.
extra set in Q3, right? So you might get
Yeah.
14 sets in total.
Yeah.
Okay. Still.
And in the race, you'd use new. So you'd have to save some new ones.
Yeah. So tyres still are a decision. Anything else you can think of? Think about what the regulation change.
What
Battery deployment.
What AI you use to
Which AI you use to deploy your energy. Yep.
Yeah.
So
How you-
it says
how you do
drivers
it.
manually
I
trigger
feel like
aero
everyone's
modes.
going to switch to Claude soon.
Teams decide energy map for recovery and deployment.
Yeah.
But do they? Because
I don't know.
I think it's they define it or decide it, but who's making the decision? I think they're just pushing it rather than saying
Yeah.
we've gone through and looked at this and we think that this is the best one. It's like no, that's just there's a little computer that does it for you.
Yeah.
So again, is that a decision?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Not in my head.
Yeah.
I mean, it is technically a decision that will affect how you perform in the race.
Yeah, but it's not. But
they're not making the
you've not
decision.
decided it. Is the point, I
The
think,
teams
is the
aren't
point.
sitting down. It's not
It's not like at the
field,
race
right?
briefing. It's like, okay, out of corner 3,
Yeah.
give me 70%,
Yeah.
and
not-
then
it's not
out
like
of
that.
out of 6, I want 5%.
Yeah. It's
Because
not,
I
it's
know
not like that.
because I know that I'm going to be racing this person and they suck out of corner 3 or 6
I
or
think-
whatever.
Whereas
I think that's kind of what
30 years
practice has
ago,
turned into.
It was very much like, we know Hakkinen likes to run long on his first stint,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
so
yeah.
we're going to undercut him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they've turned practice into that data collection for the battery.
Yep.
because you can kind of see that the times after sort of practice 1, practice 2, the increase goes down.
Yeah.
But the speed goes up.
Yeah.
And you sort of practice 1's quite slow, but then there's a bigger chunk to practice 2 in the increase, and it goes down and down.
Specifically for Japan, obviously there was a safety car strategy, but AWS tells you when the safety car window is. So cool.
Yeah, well, I think because of the very typical one stop, you know what you're changing to because you know you're going to start on either medium or hard based on where you are.
Yeah.
In most cases, you know what you're going to switch on to.
Yeah.
In most cases already, so therefore you know your safety car window. I think it just sort of falls out.
Yeah. If the safety car comes out plus or minus 5 laps from my target pit stop lap,
pit.
If not,
so again, that's not
copy what everybody else does.
Yeah, exactly.
If not, if the guy in front of me pulls into the pits when the safety car comes out, I'm gonna pull into the pits. Unless he's my teammate, then I might not. Or if my car is orange.
I think the other thing is the fact it's Japan makes a difference.
Yeah.
Because obviously we've got tracks like Saudi Arabia and Bahrain that are a little bit newer. Mm-hmm. Obviously they don't get rain affected because they're a desert.
Yeah.
But like Japan, we've been through nearly 30 years worth of Formula One there. The track hasn't changed particularly. No. They've got so much data over the years that they can look at and go, okay, well, safety cars happen between this lap and this lap.
Yeah.
Usually.
Typically.
In the last few years, it's happened between this lap and this lap. Let's plan around that, pit stops around that, just in case.
Newer
than Japan.
2004.
It's newer than Japan.
Okay. I think the summary there is that, we were right.
There's less you have to think about.
Yeah.
And I think it's not necessarily just about decisions. I think it's about key and high risk decisions.
Yes, there's very few high risk decisions.
There's very few moments where you've got to make
split second
on the spot to go, right, this has happened, let's go. And actually, at the risk of being a bit mean to people that about something I'm relatively naive about, but there's been a lot of times when you are forced into a decision like that it goes wrong.
You made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of the decisions kind of have been kind of not prededicated, but like affected by the fact that technology is so far improved that the human element of that decision choice, that friction that the human has to go through, doesn't exist.
Yeah.
They just look at data and go, this is the smart one.
And I think, exactly, and I think it comes down to risk. There's less risk in being like, box says yes.
Whereas, back in 98 and, even back as far back as the 50s, that choice was down to one man that went, oh yeah, let's pick now.
Yeah. They go, my butt feels that I'm dragging to one side. My tires are all...
Yeah. It was down to the human element that kind of made that decision and made that high risk choice. Whereas now it's, every car has like, what was the start? I think it was like 100 and something sensors over the car.
Yeah, AWS love to say that, right?
Yeah. And it might give you better quality of racing overall over the season, but it kind of makes the racing boring race to race.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think this is the point that we hypothesized last time.
Yes.
It's converging too hard.
It is. And the risk element that we've just been talking about will come up in next week's episode.
I agree. I was about to say the same.
So I'm going to end it there, boys. I want to say thanks to Tim and Jake for joining me again. And I want to say thank you guys at home for listening. Remember to get involved on Patreon or in the car. Make sure you
or at work.
Make sure your hands are at 10 and 2. Mirror signal maneuver, guys.
Make sure you make your high risk decisions well.
Make sure you open up your phone, go to Patreon, go to AAT Apex, and then
not while you're driving though.
Become a member. Do it while you're driving.
That's a high risk decision. Don't be able decision.
Everything goes up there, and we are back on schedule. We took a week off because there was literally nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
We will see you next week.
Peace.
Peace.